This is actually an interesting general question I have. What do you consider too much rolling? I like fleshing out an environment with rolls, but sometimes it feels excessive. How do you handle that? I think that, and keep in mind, this is speaking from my own experience. So I'm judging myself, and then maybe all of the other DMs get caught in the splash damage of that. I ask, I have asked for checks way more often than I think I should have, in the course of like learning how to, practicing being a dungeon master, for exactly the reason that I'm trying to describe here. And it's a little bit wordy, but the idea is that if there is a room, and that room we've designed to, or I've designed a room to do something, this room, I don't know, like, it is disintegrating under, because there's water coming down into the room, and it's mixing with an element, and it's causing some strange damage, further down into the dungeon. Okay, so there's some sort of like environmental story to tell here. The question is, what's the fun part? So if the players walk in, they go, "Oh, I had something dripping. Can I, roll nature for that?" There's only two possibilities. They roll well, great. We get to tell them the stuff, or they don't roll well. Now we don't get to tell them the cool thing we thought of, right? That doesn't mean that we explain it. In fact, the fun part is piecing it together, I think. So if they come in and go, "Hey, that does something, what's leaking down?" Go, actually, as you get closer to it and examine it, it smells like something strange. And they go, if they ask questions about the environment you've given them, the descriptions that you've given them, I think those are fair places to, because in a sense, we're putting the emphasis on the understanding of what we're telling them, not obscuring it from them. If we obscure something from the player's view, they can't do anything with it. It is sort of a dead end. If we don't even tell them that something looks weird about that chest, they can't even really use their skills to determine it, right? I would much rather over reveal to a party. That way they have more to work with than under reveal. Because you know what's going to happen if they just roll poorly, because sometimes it's just a night of rolling poorly. I may have designed something really cool to explore, and they're going to walk away going, "Yeah, there really wasn't much there. I guess there just wasn't anything." Or maybe they recognize they missed out because of the bad rolls, and they're just kind of frustrated, and that doesn't seem fun either. So I think the reason we do it is because we have this idea. Well, I think I do it because I watched a whole lot of Critical Role, and not a criticism at all, but like Matt Mercer is very much a roll to perceive things. He's a roll to perceive things type of DM, which I think is fine. Sometimes we all are, because let's be honest, roll to perceive something is actually just, I need to buy a few seconds to think of something you're perceiving here, right? That's what's really going on. And if that's how you're using it, I think that's totally fair. I do that stuff all the time. Oh, that, does that, when you look at that shelf full of books that I described, that I totally know what those books are, you're looking for anything that jumps out at you that you remember from your childhood. Okay, yeah, roll an investigation check. And then you're rolling. I don't really care what you're rolling. I'm just thinking, is there anything that I could think of right now that would be interesting for them, for this particular player? That's all fair and valid. I think that's just part of the social nature of the game, and like that's where the improv comes in. But if there's actually something there, we know there's something there, and they're asking, not even asking, if we're just describing, like, so a lot of the stuff I don't even, let me give a better example. If the players, walk into a room and I'm giving descriptions of things, and there's like let's say there's a chest, there's a trunk sitting in the corner, and I know that trunk is trapped, is booby trapped. But I just say, and then there's a trunk in the corner, and there's a chair over there, there's a bed, and there's whatever. I'm just describing the room, and they go, "Okay, well, I want to go check out the trunk." If they don't specify a type of thing they want to do, like a check, an investigation, perception, whatever, I'm going to describe it to the best of their, like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, "Hey, I want to go check out that trunk." I don't want to prompt them something. That feels worse. I'd much rather say, yeah, looking at it, it seems actually really well fortified. Like this seems to be locked with something on it that is pretty strong. Like it would take some real effort to pick that from your perspective. Like I'm going to go that far with the description because I want them to have that fully loaded description to say, ooh, okay, what do I want to do with that information? And I think too often we can err on the other side where we go, yep, it looks like it's locked. You know, there's a lock on the front you can pick. And then if they don't investigate more fully, then it's like, oh, it's on you. You weren't very careful. It's like, I kind of want to hint at what's there to give the player some more to interact with. Yeah. But I mean, this is I feel like it's a fuzzy line. I feel like we're constantly straddling sort of on the one side being too cryptic and on the other side being too obvious because we want it to feel like it matters how the party interacts. Like we want somebody to be able to make like, wow, that was a dumb mistake. I can't believe I didn't think of that. We want that to be possible. That way, when people do think of things, it's like, oh, I feel really clever. Look at what I did. And so I feel like we're constantly sort of tiptoeing between those, and it's not always an obvious thing what to do. But I do always go back to that thought of if I don't say it, I'm just imagining like a blank piece of paper. You know, if the player's trying to imagine something and I say nothing, they're imagining nothing. So at least if I give them a little bit of something, I would prefer to give them more information, but also like pepper the information throughout so that maybe they still have to choose what they're going to focus on, you know?